Yeah, as a kid, I always played with timber, and like every kid, you're down the creek, catching frogs and
Mm.
turtles and little fish and that. We weren't too far from the Nepean River growing up. It was a bit of a push bike ride, but we'd go out there, and often, by the time we were sort of hitting our early teens, we'd be camping and chasing bass and stuff like that. Didn't catch too many, the odd one on worm. But it wasn't really, my brother was into rock and beach and used to do a little bit with him. But it wasn't until I got my first job, I started an apprenticeship as a wood machinist. And one of the guys there, a guy named Noel Fulliger, Paul Bugger passed away just recently, was an avid fisherman. Freshwater and live baiting off the rocks, all sorts of stuff. Noel loved his fishing. And I got sort of dragged in with him. And I guess being a wood machinist and fishing and having access to wood and machinery and that's where it started. And I put a post up the other night, and I guess this is jumping forward a little bit, but to deception, we when I started, we were doing sort of only small. There was only four of us, I think, in the factory, and we're just doing like custom furniture, one-off bits and pieces and stuff like that as an apprentice. And then anyway, the boss got a big job, a big contract with David Jones to supply buffet and hutches and tables and chairs. So we had to jig up to make all these things and make them quick and make them, profitable sort of thing. Yeah. So that's when I learned all about making jigs, and I put that on a post the other night. As a wood machinist, your philosophy is don't make one, you make a jig to make 100 or 1,000 sort of thing. Yeah. So with Deception, we did the same thing. Basically, Deception Lures was on a micro scale, like the furniture we produced, where each little jig had one operation it would do, sort of thing. So you'd be making, say, shrimp or something like that. There'd be one pass. A lot of it was done on an overhead router. And my first day at work, that's what I used, an overhead router. I still own one today, so an overhead pin router. You'd clamp the timber down, run it past, flick it into a bucket. The next one would go. That'd do the belly of the lure, turn it over, bib slots, cut the waste off, and that's how the shrimp sort of would come out of it. But the first lure I ever made, and probably like half of guys my age in Australia, was the copy of the floppy, and it was crap. It wouldn't swim. I had no idea. It was I had a pressure pack of white and like a mint green. So it was white with like a mint green sawtooth on the side, and it was blocky and square. I don't know whatever happened to it. Hung in Dad's shed and got thrown out one time. I would have loved to have actually got that lured now just to say, what a few here and there. I wasn't selling them at the time, I was in a fishing club and mates had come and get them and all the rest.
Until someone turned up.
Yeah, I was getting to that. I was getting to that one. But, so, mates had taken them up to Windermere, reporting catching heaps of yellers. The yellers love them and all that sort of stuff. And what Cheryl was just alluding to is a guy named Alan Shackleton, and Alan still buys lures off us today. He's been to the expo a couple of times now, but he's way down on the south coast. Alan was just a slip of a lad, and him and a couple of mates are heading up to Windermere. We're at the fishing club meeting on a Wednesday night, and he said, we're going to Windermere on the weekend. Any chance of getting 10 shrimp? And I'm like, mate, 10 lures, that's a lot of work, sort of thing. And he's going, no, we're happy to pay for them. I thought, we'll pay for them. So I said, look, they're going to be like $10 each. Yeah, no, that's fine. So I've gone home, flown into them, and I was getting, because we got two little kids, two little toddlers.
You were getting up at 5 in the morning to drive to work.
Plus, I was copping a lot of, one wage with, two little toddlers showing up work, and I'm copping a lot of, you spending all this money on this stuff, sort of thing. And
not really that.
You were. Anyway. So Alan's turned up with $100 on the Friday night. From then on, it was like, shouldn't you be down the shed making more of those things?
$100 in those days.
It was. Our
Absolutely.
rent was 110.
Yeah.
At that stage, but it was like for us, it was a perfect opportunity to build a business where I didn't have to go to work. I could actually be at home doing lure stuff during the day. And then when the kids went to bed, we would be up till ridiculous hours working on
it quickly,
stuff.
like it seems like it was, back in the early 90s, it seems like it was a blink of an eye. It was in reality a couple of years, but it just exploded. I mean, I don't even know. We had shops in every state of Australia. We even had a distributor at one stage in Singapore and all sorts of crazy stuff, and we were flat out. There was 3 or 4 of us working here in the early days on it, sort of thing. My nephew and another guy, and me and Cheryl, and we were just wholesaling, of course. We didn't sell any direct. But, well, I can tell this now. We pulled a bit of a sneaky. I seen the writing on the wall that hard bodies were.
I don't know if it was sneaky or just realistic.
It was. I knew what was coming. I did a lot of fishing. Still great mates with Starling. I did a lot of fishing back then with Steve, and he come up with these soft plastics. And I'd, what are you going to do with those bloody jelly beans? You know, those little squelchies and that. Well, you're not going to catch any of those. And we went out this one morning. Back then, they were before the squidgies. They were little XPS out of Bass Pro, squirm and grubs and squirm and shads. We've gone down our favourite wall down there, and he towed me up. I'm using the paler one. I usually get a heap, and it's like 8-1 or something like that. I'm getting flogged. Anyway, come back that night and had a bit of a barbie, and I think Cheryl was laying on the bed reading the book, and I still remember sitting on the bed going, I seen the future of fishing today, and I don't reckon we're a part of it. What are you talking about? I said, I think we've got to sell deception. So from then on, had a few people interested, and Dave Killerley, a couple other guys were interested, and of course, you know, history, we end up selling it to Taxpo, but I could see that soft plastics were going to make not just spinnerbaits made a bit of a dent, but soft plastics covered so much more. You know, spinnerbaits maybe cod and bass, a little bit of yellow belly, but you know, soft plastics were, and you know, the outer, like everywhere, the outer edge. You know, so if you look at the coast, that's where your sales are. Yep. So if you're losing brim lures and bass lures and stuff like that to this market, it was massive, and the Palomon was by far our biggest seller at the time. So I could see that happening. So anyway, so we decided to get out.
But then you're up here on the north coast, and then you go back into
retail.
So tell us about that.
Well,
take us on that.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. We were doing the deal with Taxpo, and our accountant said to me, "What are you going to do?" And I went, "What do you mean? What are you going to do?" And he said, "Well, you're not going to retire on that." And I went, "No, well, hardly." And he said, "So what's this fella do?" And I said, "Well, he imports all sorts of fishing tackle, all sorts of stuff, you know, terminals and all that." And he said, "Well, here's a plan. Take half in cash and half in stock and open up a tackle shop." And I went, "Don't be stupid. I'm getting out of the game, you know, I've had enough," sort of thing. So anyway, I don't think I said anything to Cheryl at first, and I was back and forwards a lot. I wanted to, you know, I was up there on and off for nearly 3 months.
Setting up at Taxpo.
Yeah, Taxpo, a couple of days a week, staying up there and getting deception. I didn't want to see it far.
We were generous with our time.
Yeah, far in advance what the contract said I had to be there. That's for sure, off my own back. But anyway, long story short, I think I rang Cheryl one night and said, you know, what are we going to do once this is all done? What are we going to do? I don't know. We're going to have to get jobs, I suppose, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I'm thinking about opening a tackle shop. And she, what the hell are you talking about, tackle shop? And I said, well, you got a fortnight to come up with something better. Unfortunately, she didn't. So, 14 years in a tackle shop.
But in my defence, I'd worked in retail for a lot of years, and I'd managed retail stores. So retail was not new to me.
And look, in the
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did.
I loved it,
I'd say for 10 years.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I really did. And I was approached by another lure maker, knowing that I'd built, when I sold Deception to Taxpo, I'd built a 6-head rotary pantograph style machine, like a lot of people have seen, you know, where it's got the shape of the lure and it follows it back, 6 heads cut sort of thing, knock the bodies out. And I got approached by another lure maker about making one for him. And I said to him, look, if I did it today, I'd do it CNC based. You know, that's what I would do.
Yeah, because over the years you'd made different machines.
Yeah, I'd made several.
New.
I'd made several along the line. Anyway, so I sat down on the computer, started designing it all out. He faded away, nothing sort of come of it. Anyway, it's probably 6 months later, another guy contacted me about it, and I told him I'd done all the legwork and this is what it was and this is what the cost had been. He went, well, let's go. So Cheryl says, don't build one, build two, because that other guy is going to come back when he hears and probably want, you know. So that's what I did. but he never come back. So I'm lumbered with the machine. I was going to sell
not
it.
lumbered.
Well, I was going to sell it because I wasn't in my mind to get back into lure making. You know, we still had the shop at this time. We're still doing the shop. Anyway, Cheryl suggested, why don't you approach other guys about cutting their bodies for them? So I went along to the expo with some sample bodies of what I've cut, and sort of picked up a few guys from there, and it grew from there. And it wasn't in my mind to do lures again. For a while, all I did was bodies for other guys, and a heap of the guys that are going to be there at the lure expo.
It was always
I've cut their body.
though.
Yeah, but I
yeah.
It sort of ignited a fire again. In that I decided that, okay, if I'm going to do this again, I'm not doing 6 models over 15 years. It would do my head in. So I think the very first, I made a Facebook page, and in my probably first 2 or 3 sentences, I said, we'll be doing what I call freestyling. You won't know what's coming next. And I love that part of it, but it's also the massive rod for your back that we do about a batch a month, that you've got to come up with something totally different.
We've never played it safe.
No, but
we've always played risk.
But I really enjoy, probably this is the craziest. You look at it, you go, well, it's a glide bait sort of thing, and as I said, there was no Jason Say was involved. I've had a few guys over the years. I'd like to do more of it. That I approach them and say, come up with the design, and I pay them, for it, sort of thing. Come up with the design.
Yeah, but when you say design, you mean just a shape.
Yeah, come up with a shape. I love your way you do the comical type thing, and I'll see what I can do with it. How many different lures, and as people will see at the expo, there's already a couple coming off it, sort of thing. But that was nuts. Glide baits are anyone who does them, they're so labour intensive. There's all little bits of lead that have to be accurately weighed, and all the machining, that's got 2 mil stainless wire that's under that fin that bisects through there to do 130 timber glide baits in one hit while you're building up for a lure expo.
It was stupid, but
just madness.
Managed it.
But that's the sort of stuff I love, and you know what? I'll probably struggle to do them again, because once I'm done, and 2 weeks from now, someone's going to I get it every time. Oh mate, those lures, I should have bought more. I just caught a really big cod on them. Can you make me another one? No, we're not geared up to make a lure, sort of thing. And you couldn't afford it. If I said to you, can you just do 3 days for me? What do you pay for 3 days, sort of thing? Yeah. So they don't understand that side of it, sort of thing. So to make it work, we have to do batch lots. Yeah. A little lure like that, I'd be doing 200 to 250, sort of thing, to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, if I had to make 20 of those, it'd still take me 3 days.
But also allowing your creative juices to come in. You're not doing the same. It's not cookie cutter.
Yeah. No. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get out of bed every morning. I've always had that same philosophy, and I've done it a few times in my life. The shop got to that, and different things I've done. I've always said to people, if you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is look up at that ceiling and go, I don't want to do this. Don't. Because it's just going to, it's just going to drag you down. Find something else. And look, so far, I'm not sure. When did we start doing this again? Was it 2018?
2018.
Something like that?
Yeah.
What are we, 8 years in? Ooh, it's always bad.
Oh, no, don't start counting numbers.
I'm done. Can we use this video to say I'm done?
No.
You always did, like, really high quality. I'm going to just dive this in front of the camera. And if you can't see that, for everyone watching this, this is the finish on this is second to none. That's an amazing finish on that. That's beautiful. You're always known for that, and it's not just churning out the numbers. It's producing a product which, in itself, you can understand why collectors would want to get these and just whack them in a tackle.
Absolutely, and it's
cabinet.
You'd be amazed at how many guys come to me and they're on Instagram or whatever, and they've made 5 or 6 lures, and everyone's raving. They got 200 likes and whatever. Where can we buy them? Blah blah blah. So they'll come to me and say, I want to make them. Yep, no worries. So we'll get it underway. I'll do their bodies for them. And they'll say, I'll be back in about a month for another lot. 6 months later, it's like, man, I don't know how you can do this. And at the hardest, it is hard to produce to keep your quality there and produce quantities. That is a big
It's
key.
a challenge.
We've always, it's one of those many coats type thing. And before there's even one layer of colour goes on these, there's 6 coats of paint basically that are built up as a base. And just like painting the car, if you ain't got a good base, you won't get a good finish. You can lay all the paint over it, everything comes through. So you've got to start with a nice flat level base and work from it. But yeah, there's many, sometimes I'll go through and someone will say, gee, there'd be 3 or 4 layers and that, and you start counting them and there'll be 16 to 18 different painting processes go into making that lure sort of thing. So about midnight.
And I'll just finish up with, I did forget one thing. How long ago, and I should remember, we inducted you into the lure.
The Hall of Fame that you gave me that look like you didn't tell me and I didn't know. What year was that?
Cheryl didn't know.
I don't know.
No, I had no idea.
It's over there. I can find it.
I've got the photo.
Yeah. Mate, they all roll into one these years. I don't know.
Find it, but,
and
I'll throw it up on the screen for everyone.
Yeah, that was funny.
I'm thinking 21. No, 21, 22.
I don't know.
Something like that. It was a dip switch.
It was too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely was a dip switch.
Anyway, I'll find it, put it on the screen, but we've kind of gone just a little bit further than that. It's good that I got the opportunity to sit down and record some of your history. Some of that I genuinely didn't know, but appreciate it. And everyone that's here at the Legends of Lures dinner tonight, a big thank you. And let's hear it for Cheryl and Paul.
Thanks, mate. Oh, one more thing before we go.
Yeah.
I always love to finish this story.
Yeah.
And I've told it plenty of times before.
Is it Shelbyville?
No. It's I used to on a Sunday night get all these phone calls from people who've been to Windermere, and you could, you'd get this feedback, what was caught, who caught that, and all the guys who got your lures. So out of the blue, this Sunday arvo, this young guy rings up, says, mate, I've just been up to Windermere with my dad. We called into Campbelltown fishing scene, bought a couple of your shrimp. We had the best weekend. I'd never caught a yellow belly before. I got 158. We got this. Every time I went fishing, mate, your lures are the best. I'm just going to tell everybody and blah, blah, blah. And I'm on the phone. Well, might be a guide, but I'm not the guide sort of thing anyway. So she's just pumping me wheels up. So Cheryl's just rolling her eyes like, get off the phone, you idiot. Anyway, from down the hallway comes this little voice. Dad, come and wipe me bum. It was our son Matthew, who was only obviously a toddler at the time. Cheryl looks at me and said, you might be a guide to some, but around here you just wipe asses. So nothing brings you back down to earth more than wiping a dirty bum.